You're listening to Boobies and Newbies. Happy holidays, everybody, and welcome to a special holiday edition of Boobies and Newbies, the podcast that asks novice romance readers to think outside the dick in a box and brave the unbridled world of erotica. I'm your host, Kelly Reynolds, and today's romance review marks the penultimate episode in Boobies and Newbies' annual holiday special, the 12 Days of Boobsmas. I can't believe it. Just like that, another year, another Boobsmas come and gone. But I'm not going to cry because I've got a lot planned for 2024, which you will be hearing about a lot more in the upcoming weeks after I take a bit of a holiday break. But first things first. For the 11th day of Boobsmas, we are celebrating a few of my favorite things. Fake boyfriends, adventures around New York City, and of course, lots and lots of lube. And just in case you've missed the first 10 episodes of Boobsmas, you can always go back and listen to them on your favorite podcast platform or on our website, boobiesandnewbies.com. At this time, we've also wrapped up our Boobsmas giveaways, but the best way to keep up with any of our upcoming episodes and news is to follow us across the social media channels. That's at Boobies Podcast on Instagram, Facebook, Threads, and the artist formerly known as Twitter, and Real Kelly Ray on TikTok. I'm going to take a quick moment to shamelessly plug my holiday romances, Meet Me in Los Feliz and Venice Actually, both of which are available in Kindle Unlimited if you're looking for holiday romances with fierce, fat, and fabulous heroines, and the cinnamon roll heroes who worship them, all set against the backdrop of Los Angeles. Then you might consider checking out my Holidays in LA series. Also, no pressure, but if you feel like making one more person's holiday a little bit brighter, might I suggest leaving this podcast a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. You can also join the Boobies and Newbies Patreon family for as little as $1 a month and have instant access to bonus podcast clips, our monthly Boobies Unlimited book club, and so much more. As always, you will find links for all of the above in today's show notes as well as on our website. And now, on to today's Boobsmas extravaganza. Joining me today for the 11th day of Boobsmas is one of my favorite bookstagrammers and by far my favorite vegan, Simone. Welcome back to Boobies and Newbies, Simone.
Hi, Kelly. Thank you so much for having me. Can I just, for a very quick second, tell you and everybody else that this is actually such a dream come true because when I... You're laughing, but when I first started my Instagram journey, one of the first accounts that I followed was Boobies and Newbies podcast, and I immediately fell in love with the 12 Days of Boobsmas and with the fun little games you're doing. And in my very first Bookstagram year, I was participating in all of them, and it was just it's just a highlight. It's a highlight, Kelly. And I can't believe that I get to be actually on this.
Oh my gosh, that makes me so happy because I feel like usually it's the reverse where I'm telling whoever I'm talking to, I've read your books for so long. I'm so excited to chat with you. And it's kind of surreal having it be the reverse because I don't know. It's so funny. I don't think of Boobies and Newbies or me having any kind of I don't even know, status? I don't know what, the word would be, because there's just so many incredible bookstagrammers, book talkers, authors that I follow that I'm like, oh my God, these people, these ones are, the incredible ones.
Nah, I'm a proper fan, okay? I'm a fan, Kelly. And I can do this all freaking day because your books, honestly, Meet Me in Los Feliz has made last year's Christmas perfect. Like it's the perfect mixture
Mm.
of funny, sweet, sexy. It's incredible. This year though, holy shit. Like I was fanning myself. I was reading it. I was like, "Oh my god, what is this? This is genius." It was
Well,
amazing.
I'm glad to hear it. And just so everybody knows, by no means did I tell Simone to like pump me up at all like before we started recording.
I'm a hype friend. That's who I am.
Yes, no, and honestly, we all need hype friends in our lives. And I am happy to hype you up, to hype other people up, just as I am happy to receive that hype as well. Like, we all need to hype each other up. Make that a goal for 2024, to hype yourselves up and hype up the people around you that you love. So we could all use as much hype as we can get in 2024.
Absolutely.
Well, now that we're getting started and I have you here for the 12 Days of Boobsmas, which, by the way, I feel like we actually talked about doing an episode of the 12 Days of Boobsmas together last year, and like I dropped the ball on that. So Simone's nodding. Yes, I did drop the ball on that, but we made up for it. You're here. And actually, little did I know that I picked the perfect book for us to do because you are a big fan of the author. So that's just serendipity at its finest, like bringing us together for the perfect book at the right time.
Absolutely. I'm a massive fan. I even got to, for everybody not knowing this, I'm German. I got to translate one of the author's books into German. I'm currently working on the second book. I love all of her holiday books. I got to meet her at Rare this year. Like, this is feeling like a full circle moment for me.
And all of this was like unknown to me. That's the wild part about this, is that I chose this book for us to talk about thinking, oh, this is a male-male romance. You know, Simone reads mostly queer romance. Like, this will be perfect. And little did I know that she already had all these incredible connections to the author and her book. So, like I said, it was meant to be. I'm glad we didn't do Boobsmas together last year, because it wouldn't have been this book by this author. So clearly time is on our side. And actually, I mean, I feel like that's the perfect way to just introduce today's reading selection, which is The Christmas Veto by Kira Andrews. And it was published in November this year, 2023. It's available on Amazon for free if you have Kindle Unlimited. And it is also the third book in Kira's Festive Fakes series, all of which are male-male fake dating relationship stories set during the holidays. And I'll admit, I actually hadn't read the other two books in this series before reading this one, but it was clear to me while reading who the couples were in those books. And so I have added both of them to my TBR list to go back and read during the holiday season. How about you? Had you read the previous, I mean, probably, had you read the previous books in this series?
Yeah. Absolutely. I absolutely love the first two books in the series, which, you know, when the email came through with the book you proposed, I was like, oh, hell yeah. Just because
You were going to read it anyway.
I was going to read it anyway. Like, the first two books are so great. Listen, they are charming, they are sweet, they are everything you want for a festive season if you are into fake dating, which I happen to be very much.
Me
One of
too.
my favorite tropes. So good. And the thing is that all of these couples and this whole series is interconnected.
Yes.
So it's obviously, it sounds ridiculous that three people would enter a fake relationship while knowing how it worked out for the other two couples.
Right.
But and still be like, oh, but this is fake. Or could it be real? But at the same time, I feel like that's the comfort of it all.
It's the holidays, and anything could happen at the holiday. You know, I mean,
Yes.
there's that whole like magical element that we like associate with like the Christmassy time of year anyway. But yeah, it is very funny that like in this fake relationship within our book, that one of them, he's like, oh, well, my dad's fell in love during a fake relationship. And then we happen to know this other couple who fell in love during a fake relationship. So you would think when you have that proximity to multiple fake relationships that you would at least think of that as like, oh my God, like, I wonder if this will happen to me.
But it's so sweet and so
It
magical.
is.
And the real adventure is how you get there.
Yes, exactly. Well, before we talk about the book, the 12 Days of Boobsmas is just as much about talking about our holiday traditions, memories, things we like to do and eat. And as somebody who's from Germany, you and I have talked about this before, like the whole fair of Christmas markets, because in fact, it's funny, I included a Christmas market in Venice actually, because when I lived in Chicago, we would go to the Christmas market, which I call the Chris Kindle market because that's what they called it. But it was really funny because Simone sent me a voice message saying, how do you say this? Like, where is this from? Like, how would you have this idea to like put in here? And regaled me with some of your own personal experience when it comes to, German Christmas markets.
It's so funny because there's only one state in Germany that actually calls it Christkindlmarkt. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and that happens to be the one that I'm from. So
Again, meant to be.
meant to be. In Bavaria, we call it Christkindlmarkt because for us, we don't have Santa coming, on Christmas.
That's right.
We have the Christkind, which literally translates to the child of Christ, I suppose. And so it's
Mm-hmm.
always depicted as this child angel coming into homes and bringing presents. And that's literally just the case in Bavaria. And the rest of Germany, it's Santa.
But you get Angel Baby.
We get angel baby.
And I'm sure people listening, obviously, like most of our listeners are based in the United States. So I'm sure all of them would be very interested to hear about some more of your holiday traditions, on your side of the world.
So, one big tradition for me personally is actually the Christmas markets. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
absolutely love going to them. We have multiple in our city. So we have one that's like the traditional Christmas market, which is in like town square. But then you also have something like the queer Christmas market, which is just a couple of, I know, it's called Pink Christmas. Um, and it's smaller, but it's very like festive. Everything is pink. They have like pink
Oh,
fake trees. They have drag performances. They have
oh
like,
my God.
I know, it's so much fun. And then you've got that, and then you have like a medieval Christmas market where everybody is running around in like medieval clothing, and you get like a mug of meat, you know.
Yeah, of course.
Very bad. But then you also have like the traditional ones. So this is like a very big thing for me, which I do a lot with my friends. So it's like I'm planning a whole itinerary when to go with which person to which Christmas market.
Okay.
It's very intense. It's very intense, let me tell you.
I love it. You know what you have to get, and I don't know if somebody does this already. You have to get like a passport that's like when you go to like the different ones, you like check it off or put a sticker or like take a picture and put it in there. I bought this for one of my friends here in Portland. I got us both Portland coffee shop passports because we have like basically when people come to Portland and they're like, what do I do while I'm here? I'm like, well, do you want to drink coffee or do you want to drink beer? Because those are like the two things we have to offer you here. And yeah, and so we kind of like we go around town to different coffee shops that are in our coffee passport, and they leave you a space to like rate how many stars you would give it and what did you have to drink and what are your thoughts. So I love shit like that. Like I'm a big fan of, especially when it comes to like Christmas gifts, I love to give people things that are more of like experiences as opposed to like stuff. And don't get me wrong, like I love a good stuff present too, but I don't know. I feel like in the last few years I've definitely gravitated more towards things that we can like do together as opposed to here's something that you're going to stick in a closet in like 2 months and never see again.
I absolutely love that. Like, you know what we should do? I'm going to come to Portland. I'm going to get a coffee
Okay.
bus.
Yes.
We're going to do the coffee tour. And then you come
Yes.
to Germany and we're going to do a Christmas market tour. And I'm going to make you a passport with all of the important.
That literally is my dream. Like I'm not even kidding. Like I would love to do that because I love Christmassy things. I love small fairs and markets and stuff like I love them. So to put all of that together and to go to multiple ones would be a dream come true.
Honestly, let's do it. Like there are two
Okay.
very, very famous ones that you can reach from Munich by train, and it's really cheap as well. It's like Nuremberg, which you might have heard of, and then
Yes.
also Salzburg, which is in Austria.
Okay. Oh, see, and that's in my mind, I would want to do like Germany and Austria, like combined. I think that would be great. Although it is funny to me to like think about that you're saying like, oh, well, we have multiple Christmas markets like in our town. Like I'm like, oh, like we were lucky if we got like a Christmas market in all of Los Angeles or like all of Chicago.
Then again, I feel like this is a very German thing. Like I was in
Yes.
London for Christmas once, and I went to the Winter Wonderland, and this was the most insane experience of my life just because they made it a mixture of a German Christmas market and
Okay.
also Oktoberfest rides. Like they had the original rides from Oktoberfest. So it was like they had random like booths with sausages where people in German or like in Bavarian traditional clothing would give out like the sausages. And I was like, where am I? What is happening?
And this was in London?
In London. It's in Hyde Park. Like this is a massive thing. Everybody goes to it. And I was standing there like, is that the fiver looping that from like the Oktoberfest? Like, what is that doing here? And it actually says like Münchner looping, which, you know, München is Munich where the Oktoberfest is. So it was like Munich looping. And I was like, yeah, that is the exact same thing.
Well, we're not going to do the London one, though. We're going to do it the real way. We're going to do Germany, maybe some Austria.
We'll have vegan sausages, and then also.
Oh yeah, that's right.
you can have a normal one, but I'm gonna have a vegan sausage, and I'm also gonna have like mulled wine because that's some.
Yes. Oh, sounds good. Well, I will count down the days until this trip eventually becomes a reality. But in the meantime, let's talk romance. So let me give everyone a brief synopsis for Kira Andrews' book, The Christmas Veto, and then we will get down to it. So here you go. Can fake dating lead to true love? I mean, we already know the answer to that, but whatever. My name's Connor Lisowski, and here's what you need to know about me. I've had a massive crush on my best friend's older brother since high school. Everyone thinks I'm straight. I have 2 dads, but I'm afraid to come out. I've never even been kissed. And somehow I've been roped into pretending to be Reid's boyfriend for the holidays. Who's Reid, you ask? Only the aforementioned best friend's older brother who's never looked at me twice. That's it. That's short, sweet, to the point.
So good.
I appreciate it.
So good.
Yeah. I forgot, I mean, obviously I was like, oh, it's a fake dating romance. Wonderful during the holidays. I forgot about the added aspect of it being his best friend's older brother. And I think the reason I kept forgetting that, and this is something I really appreciate about the book, is this was not the typical best friend sibling where the friend gets really bent out of shape about it. Like, I feel like too often, and I know that this is the reason that some people love to Reid best friend sibling is because they want that like added tension and oh, we're sneaking around and nobody can find out. Some people love that. I don't love that. I am always reading those books thinking, who cares? Who cares? Like if this is your friend and this is your sibling and you love them both and they're great people, wouldn't you want them to be together? So I actually loved the fact that Connor's friend Asher, who is also Reid's brother, is in full support of their relationship. Like I loved that.
Especially because there are so many amazing scenes in this book with Asher. Like Asher is the
Yes.
most supportive cinnamon roll of both Reid and Connor. And when
Yes.
he finds out that the relationship might not be as fake as,
Mhm.
he actually says like, "Oh, I kind of was hoping something would happen when I, pushed you to play his fake boyfriend
Mhm.
because you used to have that massive crush." And I was just like, "Asher, you amazing little cinnamon roll. Go off." And he went like, "Okay, but I need production rights for this like relationship." And I was like, "You should get them."
Yeah, you deserve all the praise. Like, honestly, I loved the characters in this book. I loved everybody. I loved Reid and Connor and their relationship. I liked Reid's friend Addison. I liked Asher, obviously, who was, in full support from beginning to end. I loved I loved Connor's dads. And that's a really interesting relationship too. And I know that one of the previous books is about the two of them. And I feel like I need to go back and read that one because I also kind of want to know more about Connor's role like in their relationship and everything, because he talks about how one of his dads, Logan, married his mom, but Logan was his stepdad and he has this weird like very estranged relationship with his birth father, Mike. When Connor's mom died, Logan, took him in and Logan fell in love with I forget his
Seth.
partner's name. I want to say, what is it?
Seth.
Seth. Okay. I wanted to say Michael. Is there another person named Michael?
No, yeah. He's from book one.
Okay. Okay. So Logan and Seth are Connor's dads. There are a lot of character names, like I will say, and maybe that's just a hazard of having, the third book in the series, and you're trying to keep all of the characters from the first couple of books in it as well, or at least talk about them. I get it. Like I felt the same way when I was writing Venice, actually, where I was like, I still want to mention these characters that people really liked from the first book, and but I don't want them to feel overwhelmed if it's too many names. But yeah, I thought their whole story was really interesting, and so I do want to go back and read their book to see their romance play out in real time.
Absolutely. So I feel like book one is not as connected as two and three are.
Okay.
Just because, and since I read all of them, I feel like there's also a lot that you learn about Connor um, that just makes you understand him better when you are reading
Okay.
his book, because he has some issues. Like he is like out of the blue. If I think if I would have read it without having read book two, I would have probably been a bit confused about him being so self-conscious,
Mm-hmm.
putting himself down so much. But I met Connor in book two, and he was just
Mm-hmm.
this incredibly angry kid who didn't want to have
Mm.
anything to do with Logan, who was trying to make his life so much harder. And Logan was just, you know, Logan is great. Logan is such a great character. And I feel like Connor did have a lot of shit to deal with growing up, especially
Yeah.
like you get to see that better in book two. And then I feel like in it makes more sense for him to be the way that he is. And I also think that having known Connor all his life, or like for a couple of years at least, Reid also understands him better.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like Reid is able to take him as the person that he is better because he's known him so long.
Yeah, because when they first, agree to their fake relationship at I think it's the Thanksgiving party, at the very beginning, he says like, "Oh, this is a far cry from like the way that I've known Connor over the years of him being my brother's friend, as being like this angry teenager, pimple faced, like very sullen
Very
kid,
emo.
and now he's 23, I guess. And so, seeing as you've read the previous books, and only if you remember, my question while reading it was, especially when having to think about his relationship with his dad's, is how old was he when his mom died and Logan like took him in as his son?
He was in his early teens, so I think 12.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense then, because I don't know why, like I was first envisioning it as him being like little, like being a child, and then now knowing that it's maybe he was older, teenage years. That would be so hard for any teenager to, you're not only losing, I know his dad's alive, but you're not only losing like the one parent that you like have had this relationship with, but you're also being like taken in by who might just feel like your mom's husband as opposed to your father. So that would, I mean, of course he's angry. Like that would make perfect sense. So yeah, no, I do think maybe if I had read, it would have probably been better had I read that book first. I also didn't know about the connection between the books. But that being said, I do think you can read this book as a standalone. But you're right in that I think reading that previous story about Logan and Seth's relationship and Connor being the younger Connor, and then seeing him as an adult and he's in med school, but he is still very like self-conscious about what people will think of him if he comes out. I think that might have made for a better read. Haha, read, not read. But that being said, I still very much enjoyed this book.
I will say, I still recommend all three books. Like, I would
Yeah.
still recommend starting with the first one, because Connor is also like a virgin in this book. And to me, when I read it, I was like, yeah, of course he is, because he's always given off like in the previous book, he's always given up the vibe of not wanting any contact with other people. He was just too angry and he was too grieving. So him being
Yeah.
in med school and being like, oh, I've never kissed anyone, just absolutely made sense to me.
Right.
As a reader, I was like, yeah, of course not. Just because there was so much else going on with him. So
Sure.
it didn't surprise me, and it didn't feel as much as a trope, but more like something very natural.
I will say, I love queer romance. I don't usually enjoy reading a lot of coming out stories, and that's only because of the fact that I feel like we've made that like the one thing of queer stories for so long that I just would prefer to see people being queer and existing in the world, and like we're not making that their entire story. And I think this book changed my mind a little bit about that, in that I, one, love that he's a little bit older. He's 23, and he, yes, knows that he's gay, and yes, his family and friends have kind of like, maybe thought about it over the years, but he's never acknowledged it. And they've all been so supportive of not questioning him or not forcing him to make a choice or a decision. And I actually really like, I love, first of all, when he does come out to his dad's. It's the sweetest damn scene in the world. And then I love that he comes out to Asher, and it's just, it feels like natural in a way that I feel like I don't usually get to see represented in media. Like it just felt very like, oh yeah, we're just having a conversation, and then all of a sudden he's like, oh yeah, because I am gay, like, and then he just starts crying, and then they're having pancakes. Like, I mean, it's it
Yeah.
just felt like the perfect natural story for somebody to have, like, especially when you throw in all of the trauma that he's had previously with his mom, and just his upbringing. Like,
Yeah.
and I like that there was also some current issues like that they tapped into a little bit in the book. Like, I mean, they talk a lot about biphobia, which I think is really interesting. They also, Connor brings up, he's like, I know it's not true, but like, I don't want people to think like because I was raised by two men that they made me gay or like, had any kind of influence over my sexuality. And it's just like an offhand remark a couple of times, but I think that's a very real thing today. So I love that, Kira was like able to talk about some things that are very real, but do it in not too serious of a tone for a holiday romance.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Like, I literally know people. I have heard a person say, oh, and then those two men had their son come in and he's also gay. No wonder, because he's been raised by two men. And I was just like, that is the
Mm.
stupidest freaking thing I have ever heard. But there are people out
Mm-hmm.
there who think that way. And what I
Yeah.
will also say is that Connor has a hard time letting go of his birth father. So he
Mm-hmm.
accepts a lot of crap from him. And one of those things is him being insanely homophobic towards his dads, like towards Logan and Seth. And
Right.
that will also, because I absolutely assume that that has been going on since his teenage years. So that will
Oh, I'm sure.
absolutely fester as well.
It's just like we have these conversations, and I mean, a lot of us spend so much time on TikTok and Instagram and social media at large. Like, we're seeing these conversations play out in real time. We're seeing, and a lot of people will say like, oh, well, that's just online talk. Like, that's, nobody would say that to you in real life. Nobody would say that to your face. And I don't think people realize the consequences of their words and their actions and the impact that they have, especially on young, impressionable teenagers, like taking it in. Like, I don't think they realize that, like, just saying offhanded remarks can have such an impact, which is probably why you're seeing so many millennials and Gen Zers cut off contact with family members, because they've reached a point where they're like, look, I'm not going to continue this cycle of abuse, because that's what it is. That is what that is. That, our our parents and grandparents have like endured and passed along to other people. And so I really do appreciate like the story that goes along with that for Connor and his dad, because again, I feel like it's such a relevant story to today.
Absolutely agree. Funnily enough, I had this conversation the other day with my parents where I never really went to them and was like, hey, so I'm kind of on the A spectrum,
Mm-hmm.
but I am more or less open about it on the Instagram. And I was like, doing this post for demisexuality, like for Asexual Week, I was doing this post on demisexuality. And I was like, so this post is very close to my heart, blah, blah, blah. And I had this situation where my mom was sitting on the couch and I was there. And she just looks at her phone and she goes like, so you came out on the internet, huh? And I was like, I kind of never made a secret out of it.
Right.
And then my dad was also sitting there, and I said, but if you didn't know, guys, I'm kind of Demi. And they were like, both of them just looked at me like, oh, we know.
I mean, better that than like them springing into like having 8,000 questions to ask, or like, what does this mean? What is this? What is that? Like, I, and I will say that is usually a sign of people caring anyway, but it just, Yeah, it's I hate that we have to have you know what I think it is why I've kind of been opposed to coming out stories is like I think it's cuz I hate that we have to have
Yeah.
coming out stories at all. I hate that it can't just be you grow up and you're attracted to who you're attracted to and you marry who you marry and you date who you date and nobody questions it. And there's not this moment
Or you don't date or marry and nobody questions it.
and nobody questions it. Right, exactly. Like we have so many ideas and words and phrases about people and like what this is and what this is and what do you call them if they do this and it just drives me nuts. And so I think that's part of the reason why I'm usually anti coming out stories in books, just because I feel like it shouldn't have to happen at all. Like I don't have to come out as being straight. Like I mean it's just so ugh. Anyway, but
What do you mean? I did not know this about you. I have so many questions.
so many questions, so many. Although I am also one of those people that's like, I do not like to date. I am like perfectly happy being by myself.
Honestly, again, mom story. My mom will probably listen to this. So, hi, mom. The other day, I was just at my parents' house again, and I was lying in our like we have a Hollywood swing in the garden, and I was super happy. I had my dog. I had a nice blanket. I just had made myself a nice cup of like cappuccino. I was getting
Mm,
my Kindle, and I was just like preparing to have like this lush afternoon out in the autumn sun with my
perfect.
Kindle and my dog and my blanket. And,
Yes.
and my mom was just watching me and she went like, "Oh, you really don't need a man. Like you are."
Oh my God, 10 out of 10, mom. Good job. Like, I, no, and it's so true. And actually, I have to say, I kind of love that women all over the world are like having this reckoning in the last like year where they're like, oh, we don't need men, do we? Like, we don't need you. So like we're not going to actually seek you out unless you do better. And I'm like, well, babes, I've been doing this for like 20 years. Like I joined the club.
It's like a plus, but it's not a need.
Yes, exactly. And that's a thing. And this isn't even like a men versus women thing. Like that should be for everybody. Like you shouldn't rely on somebody. You shouldn't need somebody in order to like live your best life. If they're an added bonus to your life, if they put that cherry on top of your sundae, all the power to you. But yeah, 9 out of 10 times I want to kick back with the book and the blanket.
I love that it's the two of us who are
Yeah.
super not here for dating and we're just doing like, hey, let's talk about romance books.
Yes. No, and honestly, I mean, I know people always have this misconception that like romance builds unrealistic expectations. And I'm like, I think you need to think about this more clearly because I think we're reading books about, specifically when we're talking about, heterosexual pairings, like we're reading books about men who are like, loving their partners for who they are, who are helping out around the house, who
We're
are
doing the bare
bringing
minimum.
them. Yeah, and that's the thing is like what is unrealistic about that? Like why are these the unrealistic expectations? Grr. I mean, I could talk about this for like 40 more minutes.
Yeah, it's like they want to keep their shirts with their, oh my God, she roped me into marriage. Haha. No. Why would you want a partner who goes like, oh, here's the, I like her better when she doesn't talk. I'm like, nah, you know what? Like, I like to hear myself talk. I like my own, like, thoughts and what I have to say. So why would I want to live with someone and to share my life with someone who
Right.
doesn't want to hear what I have to say?
Yeah, no. And I wanna be with somebody where I wanna listen to what they have to say as well. Like, and if I'm not feeling it, then it's unfair to both of us
Oh
to
yeah.
continue that relationship. So anyway, until then, I will be in a relationship with my Kindle, unapologetically, and donuts and coffee and my couch. So
Go off, girly.
that's that. Merry Christmas to me.
Same. Big same. I love how this went like like ridiculously political, ridiculously feminist.
That's how all of my podcasts are. Like, if we don't mention the patriarchy at least once during the podcast, I've done something wrong. Like, something is wrong. But
National.
no, and that's the thing is, I think even in this, super cute, but also spicy holiday romance between two men, I think this is the kind of thing that will inspire people to have certain conversations. And I think this is always the time of year that a lot of people dread because of that, because they know that they're going to spend it with family members who might not be as accepting of them as they want them to be. And this would be a great book to read to, one, know that you're not alone in that, and two, have the happy ending version of that. And yes, maybe that does include cutting some people out or limiting your relationship with some people, but in the long run, that being the healthier option for you. So yeah, I think this is a great book for people to read, especially at this time of year, because it taps into so many real things about the holidays that are not the most beautiful, shiny moments about the holidays. And yes, they do also like frolic around New York City and like eat warm nuts. And it's there's a lot of like fun things about it too.
Oh, it's so much fun. It's so cute as well. I was swooning so hard. Like, let me tell you, you said that you might want me to read like a sex
Mm-hmm. Sexcerpt.
excerpt.
Sex excerpt.
Sexert.
Sexcerpt.
Sexert. Some
Carry on.
sexert ASMR for you guys. And I was just thinking, like, I would, love to read the scene where they first kiss just because it made me so tingly and happy. Because
Do it.
because you
Read
have
it.
because you have Connor pining so hard. He is so cute.
Yes.
He's pining so hard. And so I was just like, this scene was just so sorry about
I
the
think
lack of sex in this, but it's
no,
adorable.
well, and actually it's funny that you mentioned that because the scene that I pulled as like my sexcerpt is not a sex scene either. And that's not to say that they don't have great sex in this book, because they do, and it's really great because Reid is very patient and like very much like coaching Connor on like how to find his pleasure and everything. They use lots of lube, so A++ on lube. But I also chose one that is not a sex scene, and at the same time was like, this is so hot. So I will do mine after you do yours first.
Okay, I want to guess what yours is now.
Okay. It's one specific paragraph that I was like, tee hee hee.
I'm going to read mine first and then I'm going to guess. Okay.
Okay.
That it gives me a minute to guess. Okay. Reid sipped his wine. I loved the way the red liquid painted his lips for a moment. His tongue was likely stained too. Can I kiss you? He asked under his breath. As I tried to tear my eyes away from his lips, my brain screamed, Yes! Meanwhile, my eloquent mouth spat out, Huh? Is that crossing a boundary? He raised a hand. You're under no obligation. I just know Bunny will be reporting back, and I'm so tired of grandmother's attitude. I get it, I croaked before gulping the rest of my wine. I'm down. Reid examined me silently. Are you sure? I know you said you're straight. I don't want to pressure you or overstep. This isn't a requirement of our arrangement. No, you're good. If I believed in spontaneous combustion, I'd be afraid I was about to explode, and all that would be left of me would be a pile of ashes in my shoes. Go for it. It's only a kiss. Smile like I said something wonderful. No acting necessary, since, duh, Reid Cabot just said he wanted to kiss me. Even if it was all pretend, I grinned. Reid smiled back, then leaned down and did it. He actually kissed me. His free hand slid around to my lower back, and his lips brushed mine, feather light and moist. I inhaled his woodsy scent and pressed closer to him as our mouths hovered together. It was sweet and soft, and our lips were open just enough that it wasn't like we were mashing our faces together. I tasted a hint of wine. It was everything. God, it was almost impossible not to grab him and keep kissing. As we parted, I had to stop myself from touching my lips with my fingertips. Only a kiss, I'd told him. I hadn't mentioned it was my very first.
Ooh, it's so
It
cute.
is so
Okay,
cute.
here's the one clue I'm going to give you about my scene.
Okay.
Shoes.
Yes, literally, that was what I thought it was going to be. I was going to say, like, does it happen on the carousel?
Like, I didn't think I was into foot stuff, but like maybe I am a little bit after this scene. And it's not even like, I'm just gonna read it because I don't want people to get the wrong idea. There's no feet fucking of any kind in this book. However, there's something about this scene. Reid was suddenly behind me, his arms around me and his breath in my ear. Steady, hold on. I tugged my foot and my leather shoe went flying as I staggered against Reid. I barely moved since he was holding me up so strongly. Thanks, I tried to laugh, my head spinning and body tingling. God, he smelled amazing, that earthy pine scent. My black sock was half off, and I tried in vain to tug it up as Reid deftly pivoted us so he could crouch. Here we go. This is where I lost it. At my feet, he held up the leather Oxford and said, I believe you lost a glass slipper, Mon Amour. We laughed, and his fingers tickled my bare ankle as he pulled up my sock and guided my foot back into my shoe. Now, why is this the sexiest, like, part of the book to me? I don't know. But I just thought it was so charming that, like, they are riding on a carousel in Central Park because Reid is getting Connor acquainted with the city and all the things that he has to do in New York City. And then he helps him put his sock and shoe on.
It is so lovely. And actually, like, I have a friend who very much loves these kind of scenes, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So he watches a lot of like Asian dramas, whether it's Thai drama, all
Yes.
of them. And the whole like, oh, your shoe is open, let me tie it for you, is like a very
Mm-hmm.
common trope in those. And yeah, I know.
Ooh.
You're going to be into those now, aren't you?
I
Um,
am.
and he loves it so much. And he told me that he would love if those kinds of scenes were more present in romance. And so the first thing I did when I read it, I was like, oh my
There
God,
you go.
Chris. Because
I found it.
I was talking to him about it, and he said that it's just this level of unconditional taking care of one another and
Yes.
unconditional like act of service and of love. And I absolutely understand that viewpoint.
I think it's similar in my mind to it's like I love to read like a sick sounds so weird to say. I love to read like where somebody's sick
Like
and somebody's
caretaking
taking
scene.
care of them. Yeah, like it's just like it's a cold and they're taking care of them, or like it's a hangover and they're taking care of them. I also love it kind of gives me Mr. Darcy like helps her in the carriage hand flex kind of scene vibes, where it seems like, and this is I think what's great about a lot of romance novels, especially the ones that are being written today. It's less about the grand gestures. It's less about I have to make this gesture to apologize for something I've done and win her back, and more about it's the little things. It's the little
Yeah.
things adding up to, be consistent and show you care and it not be an apology
Yeah.
or to, make up for something. It's that you're setting the foundation for what's clearly a great relationship. And like to me, that's very sexy.
Very. I really love those romances where it's like the love and the relationship is a two-way street. where
Yes.
they just take care of each other and where it's not just one or the other. Like, there are so many books where, if we're talking MF romance, where she's taking care of him, or the
Mm-hmm.
because she's supposed to, because she's the woman. And
Because she's a
then
woman.
she's the woman. And then we also have those like books where the heroine is not giving love,
Mm-hmm.
but is receiving all of the love because that's like the fantasy. But then
Mm-hmm.
again, shouldn't the fantasy be like you're both,
Reciprocated.
yeah, you're both giving each other love? And that's
Right.
why I love these books and these stories with those small acts of love and those
Mm-hmm.
small
Mm-hmm.
things so much. They're just so good.
Yeah, I'm with you. Well, on that note, I have a quick little game for us to play. And I call this game Tit or Tat because I would not be the host of Boobies and Newbies if I didn't know when to fit in a booby pun whenever I can. So, I am going to give you things, items, etc. from the book, and you will decide which of them you prefer. So, these are all things mentioned within the book. Starting with some yummy eats and treats. White meat or dark meat?
Neither.
Oh yeah, duh. You're a vegan. Why did that not even Why did that not even cross my mind? I just pick out things from the book that I'm like, oh yeah, this or that. And then of course didn't even think that the very first one I would ask would be about meat to the vegan.
The
So
fact why I was laughing, like I just had to. The fact why I just
you just stared at me like I was an idiot and I'm like, oh yeah, I am.
no, it wasn't even like that. You know, if you were anyone but
Yes.
you, I would have been like, oh, neither. But you
Yeah. No, no, no.
introduced
No,
me.
it was me.
You
I was being dumb.
introduced me as your
As my
favorite
favorite
vegan.
vegan. I didn't put all the pieces together, okay? It is still early in Oregon. I know it's dinner time by you, but moving on, we are going to pretend it never happened, even though I will probably still leave it in the edit so people can laugh at how stupid I am.
Just because, Kelly was like, here's my favorite vegan. So, Simone
Yes,
the
no,
vegan,
don't
which
remind them.
one do you prefer?
Don't remind them.
Sorry.
Victorian England or Regency England?
Okay, difficult because this is a longer answer than you want. Um, but Victorian England has a lot of great literature and a lot of great dresses, but then Regency era has
Mm.
Jane Austen. So it's like, but I'll
Yeah,
pick Jane Austen because she's my girl.
fair enough, fair enough. I don't know why they mentioned SpongeBob. I think it's like he's talking about something that they used to watch
Yeah.
when they were younger, but SpongeBob or Patrick?
Patrick, because I relate to him.
I like Patrick too. I also feel like the older I get, the more Squidward-esque I get.
I am the most Squidward. Like, whenever SpongeBob comes into the Krusty Krab and is all happy, I'm like,
Hmm.
no, you're at
I'm like,
work. You're not
shut up.
supposed to come.
Coffee or whiskey?
Coffee.
Red wine or white wine?
White wine.
Okay. I don't drink either, so I'm boring.
But mulled
But
wine you will have.
I will have mulled wine.
Okay.
The movies, the holiday movies they mention are Scrooged or Home Alone.
I haven't watched either.
Oh my gosh. Well, there you go. Add it to your holiday bucket list.
I will.
I do think both of those are worth watching too. I would not recommend them if I didn't think they were worth watching. I do think those are worth watching.
Okay, excellent.
From their New York adventures, we have A Trip to the Zoo or A Trip to the Carousel.
Okay, so she's a vegan, so she's not going to go to the zoo, but I'm definitely going to go to the carousel.
You're not eating the animals at the zoo.
No, I know, but we're all about, our thoughts, and our thought process is more towards like consent and
Right. And so like the whole idea of like captivity is just
yeah.
like not.
Yeah.
Okay. That's so interesting. I feel like I've never actually had that conversation with somebody who is vegan or vegetarian. So, yeah, I guess I wouldn't have thought of it, but that does make sense to me now that you've said that.
It's so funny because people, when they find out about the veganism,
Hmm.
what do you think their first question is?
About veganism?
Hmm.
I don't know. I feel like it would be something stupid like, but do you like eggs? Or like, I don't know.
I mean, not bad, but the question that I get most asked, especially by younger men, let me just phrase it like that,
Oh, this is
is
going to be bad.
are blowjobs vegan?
Oh my God.
Because you're consuming something from another animal, right? It's always like my explanation. I'm
Awful.
like, of course they're vegan. The man is giving it voluntarily.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not, otherwise it would be illegal. However, we do the same things to cows and it's somehow not illegal. So, um, but yeah, that's always like I always explain the consent issue at that point.
Any man who would ask that would be like an automatic like swipe no.
Well,
Like in my book.
the one of the men who asked me that the first time, like the first man who ever asked me that, was a 17-year-old. I was 24 at the time. At uni, we had met a week before. This is 8 years ago. He actually came in after a week of knowing me and asked me that exact question. He's my best friend to this day.
I love that for you guys though. That makes me so happy. I mean, if they can't, it's good that some of them work out and, grow up.
No, he's just so ridiculous. Like, he will come in, ask a question like that. I was so irritated. I was so confused. I was like, what kind of question is that? But I have realized that he's just absolutely batshit crazy, and I've accepted that about him.
Okay, I have a couple more for you, starting with Christmas in the city or Christmas in the country.
Oh, don't do this to me. So in Germany, I love no, I'm gonna have to say in the city because the city has all of the Christmas markets.
The one that I have because they talk so much about shoes would be Oxfords or Doc Martens.
Doc Martens probably.
It's a vibe. Like, although I will say, I feel like I actually like that it was a guy wearing Doc Martens because I feel like usually in a romance where it's where there's a woman, it's usually that she's either wearing Doc Martens or like Converse high tops as like, oh, she's not like other girls.
I was just gonna say that. I was while you were talking, I was like, it's giving she's not the other girls, and we hate that.
Exactly. And I'm just like there are other shoes besides Doc Martens, but I found it refreshing that these men had some style and they each had their own unique style as well. And one of them just happened to wear Doc Martens.
Oh yeah, definitely. But he also has Oxford, so
Yes, exactly. Well, that's just about all that I've got for you. And once again, I just want to remind everybody that today's book was The Christmas Veto by Kira Andrews. I recommend going back and reading the other two books in the series before you read this one. Not what I did, and I completely regret it, but I am planning to go back and read the previous two books in the series now that we have read this one. And then, you know what? I'll probably just end up reading this one again, right? It'll just be like the natural progression.
do it. Do
Yeah.
it.
There's still time. We've still got a few days before Christmas. And honestly, even after that, I still plan on reading holiday romance well into January. But yeah, that just about does it for us. And like I said, I can't believe it. There's only one more day of Boobsmas, and you won't have to wait long because Christmas is right around the corner. I try to get these episodes all out before Christmas Day. So as you're cooking and driving and whatever else is going on during the holiday season, I hope you will tune in. But in the meantime, Simone, thank you so much for joining me. And I'm so glad we finally got to do our Merry Boobsmas episode together.
I still can't believe this happened. I'm gonna find a way to blackmail you into letting me come on next year again.
Oh, no
Um,
blackmail necessary.
Aw, but thank you so much for having me, Kelly, and happy Christmas to everybody.
Oh, yes. And on that note, we've got one more thing to do in the spirit of Boobsmas traditions. On the 11th day of Boobsmas, my lover gave to me 11 bodice rippers.
I said body rippers. I don't even know what happened.
On the 11th day of Boobsmas, my lover gave to me 11 bodice rippers, 10 tubes of lube, 9 naughty spankings, 8 rock hard abs, 7 minutes in heaven, 6 billionaires, 5 penis rings, 4 dukes of fucking, 3 butt plugs.